Okay. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So, hello everyone. Hello, our dear viewers or listeners, and welcome to our special episode of the Methodological Podcast. My name is Catherine Osoy, and I'm going to host today's meeting. And let me introduce our wonderful experts. Today, here with us, Valentina, TTC mentor, TTC methodologist, and Marco, content creator and international teacher. Glad to hear you. Glad to see you. How are you today?
Morning, Kate.
Valentina, how are you?
Not bad either, thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
Great.
Good.
So, how is the weather in your cities? Where are you now, actually?
Well, I'm in South Africa and we're currently in winter, but our winters are different from the rest of the world. Today is 17 degrees.
Nice winter, actually, you know.
we still wear a little bit of wool, but very minimal.
Okay.
Does it ever snow? in winter?
Only in the mountains.
Okay.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So, some interesting facts about winter, plus 17 degrees, no snow. Valentina, how is the
At
weather?
1%. Well, we're in the summer. Yeah, it is pretty nice, I would say. It rained for a couple of days, but now it seems fine. But I don't go out much, unfortunately. So yeah, the world passes by.
Maybe fortunately, maybe unfortunately, it depends. Yeah. Okay. So as for me, actually, I also today wouldn't complain about the weather. Today is pretty nice, not too hot as it usually is here. And but anyway, I'm waiting for some rain. Valentina, maybe you can send me some from your city. And also, not only the rain, but I'm also envisioning the moment of our podcast today when we move to the theory and move to some interesting moments. I hope our visitors, our listeners and viewers are also waiting for that. And this meeting, by the way, is devoted to progress issues of our students. And I'm sure we will have a great and productive talk today. So let's not hesitate anymore and let's start our discussion. And the first question will be to our listeners, our viewers. So please feel free to share your ideas with us. For that, you can see the chat and you can send comments according to the questions. Yeah, like if you have your opinions, please feel free to share. And if you track your progress of your students, I'm sure you do that. So please send plus if it is hard for you, and minus if it is not hard and you find it super easy. And while our listeners are answering, Valentina, Marco, what do you think the most popular answer will be?
Well, given the progress support structure that we have in place as teachers, I think, or at least I hope, that it's going to be mostly minuses.
So you think our teachers find it easy? Okay. Valentina, what do you think?
I would definitely hope for that, but I just know that unfortunately, this request, like progress tracking and discussing progress with your student, shares actually the second place over all the requests that our mentors have, and it shares it with teaching grammar and relations between teacher and the student. So I am afraid we're going to get a lot of pluses.
That's really interesting.
Actually, yeah, Valentina, you're right. That's the tracking progress is one of the most frequent questions for our mentors. And as far as I remember, this is the first time when our experts have different points of view at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That opens up conversation.
Yeah, actually, I hope our discussion will be interesting then. And I hope at least at the end of the meeting, both of you will be optimistic. Yeah. Oh my God, sorry for the sounds. I hope it's not going to disturb you. So, and now then, we have some answers from our listeners. And oh my God, some music. Sorry. So, and our listeners say that in some cases that could be easy, but usually it can be not. So some teachers say that it's pretty easy, but anyway, it's okay. And now I'd like to start our questions. And let's first discuss what exactly we mean when talking about progress.
So,
Marco, maybe you can
sorry?
say what we mean when we talk about progress.
Well, it's when you talk about progress, I'm going to give you my point of view as a teacher who's been doing this for a while. I like to use the door frame analogy. If you think of a door frame, and in many homes, especially in the movies, you see around the door frame, there's usually these little notches, these little lines with dates on them along the door frame. And these are usually marks that parents create as their children grow up. So every year they make a little line. This is how tall you were at 10. This is how tall you were at 11. And it serves as a benchmark, but it serves as a memory as well. I beg your pardon. So very much the same. It's a measure of how much our students are working, but also their accomplishments. Week by week, we have small goals set with our students, which we collectively work on to reach their highest objective, which is usually given in the first lesson. And to me, it's about the steps that they take in their learning journey, every single little accomplishment, and see how well they use everything they've learned. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree with the, I love the door analogy, by the way. And I absolutely agree with the steps analogy, because I would say, progress is basically how difficult or easy, of course, it is becoming for us, all people in general, including our students, of course, how difficult or easy it's becoming for us to cope with some of the tasks that we are either supposed to cope with, or we want to cope with, or we need to cope with, and so on. And here, I think it's really, really important to point out that teachers and students might see progress differently. A student might, well, and they usually are actually judging their progress on what tasks they are dealing with every day, probably every week. And teachers see the platform materials, they see the tasks, they see the language as a system of those steps. So a teacher and a student might have different views on progress. But yeah, I might comment on that a bit later as well.
Actually, yeah, sometimes the teachers and students see it in absolutely different ways. But anyway, we should find some, balance here, whatever. How can we as teachers understand that our students really are progressing? How to understand that, Marco?
I would say start with finding out from your student what their end game may be. What is their final main goal? And discuss it with them. Take notes. Then create a strategy with your students about how you're intending on guiding them to reach this objective. I like to create smaller, more achievable goals. I keep my explanation very simple and the concepts of the language comprehensive. So keep notes for yourself through every exercise practice and use them to complement the student. It's very much a psychological manner of working. And progress is everlasting. It's never ends and it starts from day one. So once learned, use the content in free speaking as well. Once they've learned whatever vocabulary or grammar you have taught them and they have studied, use it in free speaking. I use a lot of free speech in my classes as well, without them knowing that they're actually using the language. And this allows your student to spontaneously use that material without, oh, how do I say this? How do I do that? And most importantly, and this I cannot highlight enough, is use the Progress Check 2.0 that we have on the system. It's structured to help not only us teachers, but also the students to physically see the fruits of their labor. Not only does it allow us to gauge the students' advancements and achievements, but it also shows us where we need to modify our teaching to help the students succeed. So basically, what I'm saying is to understand that the student's progressing, you need to use your personality, use the Progress Check 2.0, which is very important. And above all else, where you see little lacks or little modifications that need to be made, look within, change them, and that will show you the progression that your student makes.
Okay, thank you. Valentina, do you have anything to add here?
I definitely second everything Marco said. Yeah, I definitely also highly recommend Progress Check 2.0. And again, I can't emphasize it enough how important is the student's point of view on progress and what they want from the process as well, what goals they have, what needs they have, what expectations they have from the process. So we should always definitely put our students at the center of the process. And I guess that will answer your question, how would a teacher know if the student is progressing? Well, follow and guide the student. That's a really interesting process because we have to follow them in terms of, what they want. And we also have to guide them towards what they want. And that will definitely ensure progress, first of all, and that will make it visible because you will just see if your student has achieved something or hasn't.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so I suppose that now we understand that it is really important, yeah, and we have some tips how to see that our students are progressing. But as far as I remember, we've already mentioned some points about short and long-term goals, yeah, and short and long-term effects of the lesson. When should we start talking with the students about that?
Oh, the first lesson. Absolutely, the very, very first lesson. And, especially if we're talking about our platform and the platform materials, thanks to the Aloha 2.0, which we all love so much, lesson, we have a great chance, not just to conduct a great needs analysis first at the beginning of the lesson, but also to start guiding our students towards their goals, just right at minute 15 or minute 20 of the first lesson. I hope that our listeners are all familiar with Aloha 2.0, and they know that there are different threads in each lesson, and they're all oriented at what our students might want, at least what they generally come for. And by the end of that very first lesson, you will already be able to tell your student, well, see, we've learned this and that. Or even better, see, now you can do this or that, right? And even though it's just a tiny, we'll say, piece of sand to that big mountain that we have to master probably, or to climb, that's still great.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Valentina, thank you. Marco, what is your answer to my question?
I fully support Valentina's answer with the first lesson with Aloha. It's a brilliant lesson. And I go from day one. I always make a point of telling my students every time they've done something in the correct format. And I also want to say that when you talk about the successes, or when I talk about the successes, I tend to always use the second person. So I use you a lot. I'd say, you just use the present continuous in the correct tense, or, that was amazing. You just used your ing in the correct form. I always make it a second person thing. It's always about them. And when there's something that we do need to work on, and when there's something that they haven't quite mastered yet, I swap over to the fourth person. I don't say you. I always refer to we or us. So I do this because I will never allow them to feel like they've made a mistake or that they're incapable of doing it. By using the second person, by using you're highlighting the fact you did something wrong. Even if you say it in a nice way, they still got to feel it. So I use that collective now to help them see that we are in this together. And besides the constant reassurance, I also like to do monthly and bi-monthly revision with them in a free speaking environment, like I mentioned earlier. I usually have some prepared questions beforehand for the revised lesson. And again, like I mentioned before, progress check. That's my new favorite slogan. is PC, progress check.
Nice.
Yeah. I would add aloha to that. Aloha progress check. And yeah, that
There you
actually
go. I see a new company slogan, Aloha progress check.
Yeah.
Nice
Well,
motto.
and for the progress check, by the way, as probably most of our listeners know, we use it every 4 to 8 lessons, or at least we're supposed to do that every 4 to 8 lessons. And that helps us to check what we have achieved with our students, to make sure we are on the right track, to confirm or reconfirm probably the current goals. And that also, motivates our students to keep moving forward, because they see what they've done and they see where they're going, which is not in 2 or 3 years, by the way, which is quite close, just 4 or 8 lessons.
So do you understand well that checking and tracking progress can motivate our students for further studies?
Absolutely. When they hear praise and encouragement, they want to do more. They start to see their efforts paying off, and they want to keep going. And quite often during this process, they actually start changing their own goals on their own accord. They start to see where you're coming from. So show them the next unit, discuss the topic with them, ask them their opinions, always keep them engaged. If you keep your students constantly engaged and motivated, they will constantly come back to you, and they will constantly come back to having those classes with you.
Okay. So anyway, I have some questions. Okay, we're talking a lot about Aloha progress check, but maybe some of our teachers don't know what exactly it is, or maybe don't know some tips how to use that and how to show the progress. Can you help us here?
Sure.
Absolutely, yeah, since it's becoming our new slogan, so we have to. Progress check is, it looks very much similar, just like any other lesson on the platform. So there is not much difficulty, at least, in finding it and in using it. It's located in the General English section, just where the new General English is, for example, and where Aloha is as well. It's separated into a course of its own, which says Progress Check 2.0. And it consists of basically 5 slides, 5 pages. Or you start with the first one, which is called Let's Get Started. And then there are 4 pages to the goals of each student. They are called for work, for traveling, for myself, and for study. Each of them will have the sub-goals or the micro-goals, the mini-goals, as some people call them. And there are also tools, on assessing separate skills even. Like if I say have been focusing on writing, you can find a section there which assesses my writing skill. So now I can write this, for example. If we've been focusing on the listening skills, well, now I can understand that kind of conversation, for example, or that kind of discussion, some things like that. And it is, well, basically for everyone. Teachers can use it, to track, they can use it separately, but we definitely recommend using it with the student to check what the goal is again, to track what we've already done.
Okay. Marco, do you have anything to add about progress check or magical stuff?
The magic trick.
Yeah.
Just to add to what Valentina just explained so nicely, I want to say that teachers use it. It's a phenomenal tool to have. It provides you with all the material needed for the assessment. It's topic-based, like Valentina said, whether it's for me or for business, or travel, etc. It's super digestible. It's so easy to use. And use it every 4 weeks and use it at every 8 per topic or per unit. I've used it more often than that as well. But it's there to be used, and it's so easy to use, and I highly recommend just stick to it. Yes.
Okay, so we should keep it in our mind, yeah. And by the way, for example, Natalia has just, one of our listeners, she has just mentioned that she likes progress check in general English course, and she said that it's very comfortable to follow. That is why I hope that our dear listeners, you also can share with us your opinion about that. And if you follow progress check, or if you have any other ideas how to track our students' progress, so please feel free to share. And while you're sharing your ideas, I have one more question to our experts. As I understand, the progress check on the platform is not a one-time activity, and I can use it several times with one and the same student. Is it correct? And if yes, how can I do it? Like to, I don't know, to praise the students and give a short feedback. So how can it be done?
Well, I think I can take that one.
Cool.
Currently not a one-time activity, as we both have already mentioned. It's actually recommended to use it with one and the same, with each of your students, definitely more than once, maybe even more often than just every 4 lessons. Why not do that? That would just depend, on the goal and on how good your student is. Why not? Maybe they are just, really, really good learners, and they will remember everything faster, and they love practicing it. So why not? And unlimited number of times, up until your student reaches their ultimate goal, whatever their ultimate goal is. In general, I would say it takes about 4 lessons to achieve a micro goal. Because a micro goal may be something just as simple like, I want to be able to order food in a restaurant. And that's definitely achievable in 4 lessons, 4 so lessons. And
Absolutely.
also, in general, unfortunately or fortunately, we know that, and I believe that oral listeners also had that experience. A lot of students, when they first come to our school, they only buy the 4 lesson package. Because, they might not be sure if it's their format, if they're going to like everything, if they're going to like their teacher even. So they only buy that 4 lesson package, the minimum one. So it is definitely one of the great goals of checking progress here, because if we manage to, inspire our student from the very beginning, it's not only good for the school, which it is, of course, it is also good for our students, because they will not feel like they've wasted this time. And they will come back to you again, as Marco mentioned. And that's also why you can use progress check just any time, basically, you feel your student is drifting off a little bit, like their attendance starts to be kind of flaky. Maybe you feel that their motivation is kind of dropping. So any time like that, and 4 to 8 lessons.
Okay, Valentina, thank you. And you've just mentioned that we can use it with any students. Marco, do you agree with that? That it's suitable for?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The progress check system is developed to encompass every level.
Okay, so also we should remember about that, that we can use it with everyone, just we should be careful, how to do that in a good way. And by the way, what is your ideal way to show and discuss your students' progress? Valentina, can you start?
Oh, I'm, rather traditional that way, I would say. I discuss what we've achieved over each lesson. First of all, as we know, we set the goals for the lesson, and then we discuss what we've actually arrived to at the end. I discuss the final free practice task with them, of course, to point out specific cases from that freer practice stage and from the whole lesson, like, wow, today you actually did this, and remember how difficult it was for you. Like, remember how you couldn't even, put 3 words together, and today you just created a whole sentence on your own. And that amazes me. Normally, that sincerely amazes me. And that's usually great for the student to hear. And it makes them happy, of course, and it makes them motivated. Like, wow, I actually did that. I can build sentences now. That's amazing. Well, I'm talking about students like elementary level, for example, or beginner level. But yeah, it's basically the same with all the higher levels. Well, we do tests and exams, of course. And I also always ask them if they believe they're getting better and why they think so, like if they're actually feeling it. If they say no, well, then you should probably change something, or I should change something in the way I pointed out. If they say yes, then I check with myself, like, do they have a clear picture? So yeah, I'm pretty traditional, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Actually, let's check it a bit later. That's one tricky question I also have for you. But now,
Okay.
Mark, what about your ideal way to show and discuss student progress?
A tricky question just got
Tricky question will be later.
I like to use language as a comparative tool. So when I feel that it's time to test, or maybe not test, to check something that we've recently learned, I always start with creating a free speaking session, be it 5 minutes, be it 15 minutes. And I don't tell the students we're going to have a conversation. Many of my students always tell me, it's so nice talking to you. We're always talking. I don't tell them we're going to have a conversation. I don't. I don't tell them we're going to talk about something specific. I don't mention the fact that a conversation is coming, because this is going to create a preemptive anxiety attack. If I say to you, right, we're going to have a conversation using the present continuous about your work, they're immediately going to start worrying, where's the language, where are the words, So I don't tell them. I just change the direction of the language of the lesson, I beg your pardon, into a chat. And as they use the language and vocabulary that I'm focusing on, I make notes. And once they're done talking, I highlight everything, all the marks that they did. I highlight everything. I tell them, realize you just said this and this and this. Did you notice that you used this vocabulary in the right context? And they get all excited. And again, I use the second person. You did so well. This is what you did. Look at you. It catches them off guard, and they automatically realize, oh, wait, I did that on my own. And that just boosts their confidence. And with that boosting of the confidence comes the desire to study more.
Actually, that good psychological tip, yeah, like to every time mention that you did something great. Okay, so I hope that our listeners found some really cool tips how to do that. Yeah, how to check progress and how to motivate, how to praise students. But now, my tricky question. Yeah, I hope you are not anxious. Yeah. So, what if my student says that they aren't making any progress? So no, I don't feel any progress. Like nothing. Still, everything is the same. What to do? What to say?
I'll go back to the conversation format again, because I really do believe in that it's worked. So I'll go back to the conversation format, and we'll talk about their doubts, and we'll let them air them out. After they've mentioned that, they don't think they're doing well, or they don't feel like they're accomplishing anything, I highlight every step they've made that has changed since the beginning of the course, from how they used to speak to how they're currently speaking, the use of certain language to the use of certain language currently. And I encourage them to listen to the class recordings. And many of my students, funny enough, don't even realize that they have the class recordings there, which is such an amazing tool for us as teachers, but even more for them, because they used it for class and content revision. But it's also a good tool to go back in time. Tell your students go back to 4 weeks ago. If they do 12 classes, or 3 classes a week, I beg your pardon, that's 12 classes. Tell them to go back 4 weeks ago. Listen to themselves then, and then listen to themselves in the latest class. And they can compare for themselves. Oh, I actually have really made a change.
Cool. Valentina, what would you say?
I would say same. Absolutely. And also, of course, I'll immediately, bring specific examples from the same lesson. if the situation is that is so that at the end of the lesson my student expresses that concern, or I ask them, if you do you feel like you've achieved something, and they say no, I'll immediately bring some specific examples. So what I mentioned before, like, so remember what you did today, this and that, like, isn't that amazing? I would do that. Also, well, if there are still some cases, unfortunately, when the student is really is showing no progress, that also happens, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So after we've, rechecked if we're heading the right way, if we're actually setting the proper micro goals that our student actually wants to achieve and that they're motivated to achieve. After having checked all of that off the list, I would, think of all the tools I'm using in the class. Because we might be following the right goal, just, again, checking the lessons off the list, like, yeah, we've done this, we've done that. Okay, so we've been through a topic, but we forget about some extremely important things like spaced repetition, mm-hmm. about the forgetting curve, the curve of forgetting by Ebbinghaus. Our students tend to forget. Mm. So we might say that we have achieved something today, but a week later they will forget about that if we haven't repeated it. Then probably some ways of giving the information can be changed. Like, sometimes we might get carried away by some explanations, and we're just trying to declaratively give them information about something, like explain the present perfect tense, but they don't get enough practice. So they think they understand it, mm-hmm. But it hasn't become a part of them because there wasn't enough practice, or because there were no practice at all. There was no practice at all. And also using the concept checking questions that are a wonderful tool of teaching as well, not just checking what they have in the name. So yeah, I would also look into that one.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Valentina. Sorry, Kate, I just wanted to say quickly that I agree with Valentina with the CCQs, the concept checking questions. Mm-hmm. They're very important. And repetition is so important. I'm currently studying my 7th language, and it's a language that I don't use. So I'm studying Greek, which is now my 7th language. And the only way that I manage to remember it, because I don't practice it with anyone, is I walk around the house every day just repeating words in my head. Uh-huh. So when I'm not working, I'm just repeating words in my head, and that Valentina hits the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our students should remember, that like repetition is also one of the most important tools which we can use, even if we don't have it as language in real life. Anyway, it should be. Okay, so, and by the way, what do you find the most challenging in tracking and discussing progress? What is it?
High expectations.
Uh-huh.
But I'll let Valentina tell you.
No, you go. High expectations. Yeah, they're definitely at the top of the list. Wow, yeah.
I think, Valentina, you might agree with me with this, that students, especially kids and teenagers, come with very high expectations because their parents might not speak English. And then they went like, okay, you learn quickly, and then we'll just pay and you learn quickly. They want to learn everything and they want to learn it so fast. And we kind of have to open the doorway for them and help them to understand that, as the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. So in order to finish a big meal, you have to take small bites. It's the same with language. The smaller digestible chunks of information are better absorbed than just rushing through it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. High expectations. Yeah, because, I'm pretty sure all of us, well, first of all, I'm ready to bet on that. All of us have seen those ads all over the internet or TV saying learn English in 15 days and stuff like that. And a lot of people actually believe that. And they come and they ask us so will I be able to be fluent in like 2 months? Well, no, you won't.
Oh, why?
And, exactly. And well, I haven't had many students like that of my own, but I've heard so many stories, and they are actually, surprised that no, I'm not going to be fluent in 2, 3, 5 months. How is that so? But that's just so much our brain can take, and there is so much more to it than just lessons and the material. So, well, yeah. And to me, it's also not about progress as is what's challenging. It's about, making sure that we've set the right goals. Because, again, I'm pretty sure many of us can relate to that. Students come and they don't know what they want. So it's our task to actually figure out what exactly they need, why they're here. Because if they just say, oh, well, I wanted to learn English for myself. But we know that that's not a goal. So there will be no progress in that. We need to, what Marco said before, break it into smaller chunks. We need to find out what we can actually do in 4 or 8 lessons. And to me, that's the most challenging.
Okay, so yeah, we always should remember about the high expectations and goals and how to deal with it. Thank you so much. So just like one comment, I see some comments from our viewers. They are amazed with Marco's 7 languages. Yeah.
That's not the point of this podcast.
Anyway, so and unfortunately we don't have a lot of time. I have the very last question for you. Can you share with us any tips for our teachers who are watching, or maybe will watch the recording later based on our topic? Do you have any pieces of advice?
Like I've mentioned before, and I know I'm going to sound repetitive, but conversation, number one. Keep conversation alive. Personality, I've mentioned this in other webinars and podcasts. Personality is very important. More and more students are turning to online resources to study, not just English, whether it be maths or whether it be any of the STEM subjects. They're turning to online resources. Students are going to online universities. So the learning process has become a very online presence. And by learning online and by studying online, the students have lost the personal feeling of being in class with the teacher, that physical presence where you can feel the teacher's energy and you can feed off the energy of the other students around you. So keep that personality alive. Know your student's story, vital. Know who they are, know their life, know their hobbies, their family, their pets, everything. Make notes. Remember that on the platform, in class, we have a notes section that we can write notes for ourselves that the students cannot see. Sorry, write everything you can in there because you can refer back to it. This will keep them engaged all the time. This is how you keep them engaged. And then just remember that teaching is not for the weak-hearted. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's a very disciplined career, and it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of drive, and it requires an immense amount of love, not just for the art of teaching, but for students, for other people. And just to end off what I'm saying is, I like to tell people when I say that I'm a teacher, that as a teacher, this is not my journey. Valentina spoke earlier about guiding and following. It's exactly that. It's not our journey. It's the students' journey. So we're just there to drive them to their destination. And we have to make sure that they get there safely and well equipped.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for this good tip. Yeah, always it's good to remember about that. Yeah, cool. Valentina, what about your tips for us?
Well, I just absolutely agree with Marco. And I think I'll better just remind all of our listeners and viewers that our Teachers Training Center and the platform as well have so many tools and resources for you. Aloha, Progress Check, there are courses in the My Training section, including, by the way, the one that will explain how to work with the Progress Check, for example. It's one of the recent courses, which is called How to Use Progress Check 2.0. There is also a lesson on the platform for students and teachers to take together. Are you an effective learner? Which explains like the curve of forgetting, the spaced repetition, how we use those tools to be better learners. And we also have mentors, a great system of teachers with huge experience that might help you. Please just keep all of them in mind. Don't be shy to use them. Don't be shy to come to us to ask for help. And also, by the way, since we're talking about progress, that's just a great opportunity for me to advertise that we are almost ready to release a new course, which is called How to Help Your Students Progress. So stay tuned. It's going to be ready in a couple of days, and we're there for you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's always nice to remember, that we have great support, like methodologists, colleagues, great platform. Yeah. So thank you so much for your tips, our dear experts, Valentina, Marco. Now our time is unfortunately up and we must finish our perfect discussion, perfect conversation. So dear listeners, dear guests, in the chat, you can find the link to the feedback forum. So please, we'll be really glad if you find 2 minutes to fill it in, because your feedback is really important for us. Yeah, and we really take it into consideration. So please don't be shy. Send us your comments. So, and I hope that our podcast, our discussion today was really useful for you, and maybe you will turn back and check it again, for a while, because it's always important to remember these moments which we've discussed today. Yeah, so thank you so much for your participation, our dear experts, our dear listeners, viewers. Thank you for your comments. And of course, thank you for your emotions, for your mood. So I was glad to be with you here. I hope our experts were also. So then, have a nice time today. Have a perfect lessons and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.